Hello and welcome back to the Beyond Enough podcast, where we share the stories behind the stories of women going beyond enough and choosing more for themselves, their families, and on a journey of self-discovery and all sorts of other things. So I am back this week with another incredible guest. I'm going to introduce you to Lou, and we are going to dive into the stories behind who she is and what she's up to now. So welcome, Lou.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. So yeah, I'm Lou and I'm a behaviour change and habits expert. So I specialise in working with women, specifically in business, to help them break the habits that are keeping them stuck and create new ones for success.
Ooh, I love it. And we are very much aligned on the way that we think about a lot of things, and kind of some of our journey as well has a lot of crossover. So I can't wait to dive into that. But first, I would love you to tell us just a little bit about your journey. How did you arrive at, I guess, knowing that this is an area that you really wanted to help women with?
Yeah. So I've got 15 years plus experience in habits and behaviour change. So my experience comes from working specifically in the substance use field. And that is where I've kind of gained all of that experience. So when I say I can break habits and I can change behaviour, I mean it, because I've literally worked with people who have been at rock bottom. And what I was noticing was the same things were kind of coming up all the time with women in business. And I was like, oh, that's the thing. That is what's keeping a lot of women stuck. So yeah, that's what I kind of came to it. But before I actually came to the habits and behaviour change, which was sitting under my nose the entire time, I started another business way back when. I think it was like lockdown. I think everybody started a business in lockdown, but I did start a business, and it was a product-based business, and that came from kind of realizing that I wanted to do something. And I noticed that when I was keeping my hands busy, my mind switched off, and that was kind of the biggest thing that I realized. Actually, there are some mental health things going on, and it was the first time I'd ever kind of addressed it. And then it's just kind of gone on from there. So I was like, oh, I like this business thing, and it's just evolved into what it is today.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing that with us so vulnerably, because I think there are so many women that can relate to that, and it's maybe not until we start doing something with our hands or we start doing the business that we start to realize that maybe we've been masking a lot of how we're feeling with work, career, family, whatever that may be. And actually, once we take a step back, sometimes that can bring up quite a lot of uncomfortable feelings around, oh, wait a minute, actually, I need a little bit of support. I need a bit of help. And how can I move forward and look after myself in a better way?
Yeah. And I think from kind of my work experience as well, it always felt like I was equipped to deal with this. So I'd noticed this because I work with people who are experiencing kind of mental health struggles, but you just don't. And it's just one of those things that does creep up on you. And sometimes, you don't realize, then you're like, oh, okay, that's what it is. But that's when you kind of acknowledge it and that's what's happening, that's when you can obviously get the right support and to help yourself, really. Because I think as mums as well, we're often right at the bottom. Everyone else comes above us, but without us there is nothing. So it is really important, we have to look after ourselves more than anyone, I think.
God, I totally agree. And I was thinking about this a lot recently because I've had a few conversations with different people, and I think sometimes, myself included, we sometimes think we're the exception to the rule. And we sometimes think that we can eat like a teenager, sit at a desk all day and not have any movement, constantly like ingest content that makes us feel anxious and scared and nervous and all the other things. And we think, no, I'll be fine. Like, I'm the exception. Like, I'm going to be fine. And so, like you say, sometimes it is that kind of hit the wall moment of like, oh, I've actually not been taking care of myself and I'm not the exception. I actually do need fresh air and nutrition and all things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where like the habits and stuff comes into it as well, and why I'm so kind of passionate about it, because it's got like two sides that I always feel. So habits can help us make things easier. So I put a lot of the things that I do on autopilot
Yes.
because again, women in business, as mums, our brains are taken up of a lot of energy. We have to make a lot of decisions all day, every day. So I kind of use habits to put everything on automation as well. So I don't have to think about a lot of the stuff. So then I preserve my thinking energy for the stuff that I need to do. And I think that kind of helps me stay on track and be able to then have those moments to myself, because I'm like, okay, well, all those kind of things that I need to do have been ticked off because they're just automatic now. So now I can focus on the things that I need, and my family and the business needs and things.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And thank you for sharing that. I think our minds are so busy and it's just a lot sometimes. Like it's quite overwhelming. I think for us especially, especially mums who have businesses, it is a lot. It can be really overwhelming. So I love that that is a part of how you actually start to reduce that mental load as well. Like I know this is getting taken care of because it's part of my daily routine or weekly routine or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is. It is. It's a lot. It's a lot being a mum in business. It's a lot being a woman.
Girl, it is. I love it.
I will want to be a man.
Well, that's very I also agree. I love it. So we started the product business in COVID and then we've moved over into helping women in business. What do you think are those common themes that you see throughout your career as well with um, helping those with addiction and breaking habits? What do you think is that thing that we really struggle with when it comes to change, right? Because that's what it is. It's change, changing our behaviors, changing our patterns. I speak about this a lot as well with my own clients. Like we do get stuck in these subconscious loops, just playing out a story. And even when back in my heart HR days, we had change management, right? Like it was like a whole process to help the organization, people within the organization go through change. It is something that people really, really struggle with, whether they're a women in business or whether they are, you know, struggling with addiction and so many other different areas in life. So what are those things that you see crop up time and time again that might be preventing people from making those changes that actually are really beneficial?
I think it's realizing the reason why you want to make those changes.
Mm.
So quite often so I always say you can't rely on motivation. Like motivation is a thing that's going to get you started. It's not a thing that's going to keep you going. It simply isn't. Motivation comes and goes. You can't wake up one day and go, I'm really motivated and tomorrow I'm going to feel the same. It's not going to happen. And I think finding and realizing the reason why you're making that change helps people to do it, because quite often the reason is an external thing.
Mm.
So kind of the work that I've done, it comes from like family members. Like you need to stop using because of how I feel like the family member. And I think it's the same with kind of mums in business, women. We often feel like what we should be doing, we should be making this change because of something somebody else thinks or feels. And it can be really hard because some of the kind of reasons for change, you would think, you absolutely should be making those changes. But if it doesn't come from within you and the real reason that you want to make that change, it's never going to happen. Or it might for a week or two. You might think, oh, yeah, I'm making those
Yeah,
changes. Not going to be a long lasting change.
I completely agree. I think there's so many things that we feel we should do and that pressure from other people, whether it is family or whether it's, if you're a woman in business, it's maybe like social media that's making you feel a certain way and you think, right, she looks like she's doing great, so I'm going to do content like her, or this person's using this strategy and it looks like it's working, so I'm going to do this. And then you get caught in this like bouncing back and forward trying to please everybody else instead of actually saying, what can I consistently implement that's actually going to give me what I want and need from my business?
Yeah, 100%. And that is what I bang on about all the time. It has to be realistic for you as well. Because again, it was like I say, you can have all the strategies in the world, but that's somebody else's strategy. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And when I'm kind of looking at habits and creating things with clients, it's around what's going to work for you and your life, your business. Just because I do something doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Just because Amy does something doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It has to be what works for you, your life, your business, what is going on for you. And I think we often have that big goal, and that big goal is always, it's huge and it can be overwhelming to try and get to that big goal. So
Yeah.
it's about breaking down, because I think we always think we've got to make these massive moves out all the time, and it's not, especially like when you think like social media, like say people put out like all these big kind of goals they've achieved, their 10K months and, all of that. But they're also not sharing how they got there. They're not sharing those little steps that they took and all those years, all those, months that have got them to that. It's like it just happens. No, it didn't just happen. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears behind that, I expect. So I think it's just about being just open and honest about these things as well. And there's a lot out there that we kind of see, and everything underneath it is not being shared. And yeah,
No. Well, it is on this podcast. That's why we're here, right?
yeah, yeah,
No,
definitely. Yeah.
100% I agree. And I think, again, it causes this feeling of I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing it right. Everyone's better than me, everyone's doing better than me. And then I think it's really difficult then to be like, okay, these are the next 5 things that I need to do, because suddenly that's not enough and suddenly nothing is enough. And guess what? Then you get overwhelmed and you procrastinate and you do nothing instead of taking those, 5 actions for the day or whatever it is you've got on your to-do list and doing them every single day and showing up and doing the thing. Suddenly you're like, you're going back the way, right? Because you're stuck in that, like, that just froze, overwhelm, all the things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I literally had this the last 2 weeks. So we were just talking about this being half term, and I was like, right, I've got all this time. I'm going to do all these things. And I had a list as long as my arm. And what did I do off my list? Nothing,
Yeah.
because it was just too much. And
Yeah.
I got overwhelmed and I was like, I just can't do anything. But again, I think that comes down to like an external pressure of, right, okay, well, you see everything, out there on social media, but you've got all this time. You need to fill that time with stuff. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. But I didn't do anything. And you know what? I don't even feel bad about it, because I filled my own cup for the last 2 weeks. So, and again, I think that's something that people struggle with, is filling their own cup. Like, absolutely, we can fill our own cups, because if our cup's not full, how on earth have we got anything to give anybody else? We just haven't.
Again, yes, thank you so much for sharing that and being so open with us. And I think you're right. And there's certainly times, even through, 6 years I've had in business, there are still times where I feel overwhelmed. And there are still times where I'm like, okay, I need to check in with myself. Like, where am I at? Like, what's going on here? Why am I not feeling, excited and ready about the next couple of things I've got to do or the projects that I've got going on? Because I know I'm excited about them. I know they're great. But what's that emotional piece in between? Like, where have I not been looking after myself? Where have I been actually going too hard on, all the things and looking after myself? And I think you don't put fuel in your car, you're going nowhere. But I think you're right. We just expect ourselves to do all of this really high performance, high functioning, creative, talking to people and all these social things. And actually we're running on empty and everybody else is fine. We've sorted everybody else, but we've nothing left. And we're still expecting that like high quality work, high quality, whatever it is you're doing. And actually you're exhausted and just need a bit of time off over this Easter break.
Yeah. I mean, I still got to do all the things I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But take little steps.
100%. And we're allowed to break. Like, I just advocate so much for women having a break. I'm like, just have a break. Give yourself a nice, nutritious meal and a nap, and you will feel so much better.
Yes. It is so true. It is so true.
It's so true. So take us back then. What got you interested initially in behavior change?
I'm just really interested in how like the brain works and why we do what we do. And I just love like people watching and just figuring out people. So I'm the person, like if me and my husband go out, my chair is going to be facing everyone else and I'm going to be ignoring him and I'm watching what everyone else is doing. That's me. That's what I do. But yeah, I just find kind of the brain and like say the things that why we do what we do really, really interesting. And when you kind of understand that, you can understand quite a lot of things, because again, I think we're often a bit like, "Oh, well, why do I do that? I just do it." But there's like neuroscience behind it, and there's a reason why you just do what you do. There's a reason why we pick up our phones when we don't actually want to do anything on our phones. That's the habit. We just pick it up, and it's because we want that instant kind of feel good. We want that little dopamine hit. So yeah, I'm just really interested in that. And like I say, when you kind of break it down, and it's like, oh, right, okay, I get it now. I get that there's nothing wrong with me. It's just the way that my brain is wired, and you can break those. So a lot of the time, and I think like we've already mentioned, like change is hard. Like it's really hard. And it's because our brains don't want us to change because it wants to feel safe all the time. And when we start to try and make those changes and we're doing something that is a bit like, I'm not quite sure about this, it will do everything it can within its power to stop that from happening. And that is why change is really, really difficult. And why, whenever we try and change anything, and I often go back to things like healthy eating, and I remind my clients all the time, nobody achieves their goals perfectly first time. I don't know a single person that has ever got from A to B in a linear line. It's not going to happen. You are up and down. You're going to go through that cycle several times. How many times have you started on a Monday? I'm going to start eating healthy today,
Mm.
and you do that several times. And yeah, when you can kind of break it down step by step and make it work for you and the real reasons why you want to make that change, that's when amazing things kind of happen and that change does happen. But it's not an overnight thing. It does take work, but it's absolutely possible with anything.
Yeah, I love that. Do you know the example that comes to mind for me is that I used to be a really negative individual, shall we say. There was like a joke in my family that a black cloud followed me about. And I used to say, I have such bad luck. Like, I have such bad luck. And it was like a joke in my family, like, oh, Amy's black cloud. Like, here's the bad luck. Like, it was a thing. And I was so extremely negative. And it wasn't until I started on my kind of entrepreneurial journey and mindset and all these things that I started to realize that actually I was very much in a habit and a pattern of this negative self-talk, this kind of, and I know we all have like a negative thought bias, but mine was like really heavy. And so I was just constantly being mean to myself. I was very judgmental and critical of myself and of others. As we know, that's projection. But back in the day, it was just so negative. And then when I
Mm.
speak to, friends, clients, whatever, about starting to shift and, we're looking at self-worth, we're looking at confidence, all these things. And I always start by saying to them, catch your thoughts, because your thoughts are also a habit. Like they're also just a pattern that you're playing out. But until you start to consciously pick up on these things, you don't realize that they're actually there. And it took me a long time to not be like that. Lots of attempts, years and years of over and over and over again, catching these thoughts, reframing it, catching these thoughts, changing what I'm consuming, changing my patterns with social media, all these things. But even then, after all that work, and I'm a much happier, positive person now, but if something happens, if something changes, if there's, whatever going on, my brain will kick up these old patterns and things. And so my point being, you're always having to keep on top of it and reinstill that new pattern or behavior that you are working towards.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, like that you kind of shared that because that is literally your brain doing what it's meant to do. So when you were kind of talking about like the negativity, our brain searches for that evidence.
Yes.
So whenever you do something new, if it hasn't got that evidence this is going to work out, it automatically thinks, well, this is going to be awful. This is going to be a negative thing. It's going to like kill us. And it's got no proof that it's actually going to be okay. So the more that it does that, that becomes its automatic response.
Yeah.
And where you've done that kind of rewiring, what happens is we can rewire it. So we've got different responses, but that wiring is always going to be underneath it, that kind
Yeah.
of default. And that is what you're going back to, because when things get a little bit too much or a little bit overwhelmed, your brain goes, I need the quickest way to kind of get out of this. And it'll go back to the default because that is what it's so used to doing. So this is why, like, especially with things like addiction and things, like the only way that I've kind of can relate to it is I used to smoke when I was like a rebellious teenager. But even now in my 30s, late 30s, I sometimes can smell a cigarette and think, oh, do you know what? That smells
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I haven't smoked for 20 odd years, but my brain has still got that wiring. Even though I'm a complete non-smoker, that default is still underneath it. So it's still like, oh, that smells really nice. Not that I'd ever go and smoke, but what's happening.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great example. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, you're so right. And I think, again, that's why I think it's so hard to maintain change, because you have to be so on it. And again, you have to know why you want that. Because if you were just quitting for like a boyfriend, as in smoking, and then you liked smoking and you didn't want to quit, but you were doing it for him, your brain, like, for you to have that energy to overcome that habit, you haven't got that kind of internal incentive if it's for someone else, the
Yeah.
way that we do when we're like, no, I'm going to fight against this habit because I know this isn't good for my health or whatever your reasons are. And that it takes a lot of energy. And I think that's why people struggle to like consistent, like change that over time and keep that change going.
Yeah, it is. It's hard. And let's say you can rewire it, but that default is always going to be underneath. And when things get really hard and you haven't got that kind of thinking capacity, your brain's just going to go, I'm going to go for the quickest thing I don't have to think about. And it's those kind of hard wiring, I kind of call it.
Yeah. And that's when you've got to really have that strength and be like, no, this is what I want.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
why it helps having somebody kind of in your corner as well, like picking you up, you know. I was reading something this morning and it is so true. Like coaches have coaches. It's not because they don't know how to coach and things, it's because you need somebody kind of be in your corner to pick you up when the things wobble as well. And you know, that's the thing. Life is difficult at times. You are going to get those wobbles. You know, life isn't going to go perfectly where you can put all those habits into place all the time. And I think another part of it is what is your kind of response to those wobbles? How quickly can you bounce back? But it's, you know, it's absolutely fine to have those days where you're like, "Do you know what? I just cannot be asked today. I am switching myself off from the world. I am done." And that's fine. But it's then how do you kind of bounce back from that? Is that just an hour or two that you need to kind of switch off? Is it a day you need to switch off? But then you're back to it the following day. Have to be really careful that that doesn't go into like a few days or a few weeks or a few months, because that's when, you know, it can have a massive kind of impact.
Yeah. I remember reading The Compound Effect, or is it Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits is all about habits.
That sounds obvious, but I'm trying to remember this.
I know that I want to be sarcastic.
I know, like, which one was it? But it speaks about how we're always like building towards something, right? And like, if we can stack these behaviors and habits that help us towards the things we want, it compounds over time. But that is also true of like, for example, smoking every day, 5 cigarettes a day, but it compounds over time and you've, you know, thousands and thousands of cigarettes, right? I
Yeah.
guess we're using that example because you threw it up. Like, sorry to keep bringing it up. It's like that compound effect, isn't it? And that's really where the power of behaviors and like these little micro actions on a daily basis really do change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah. And it is, because if you go too big too soon, you're basically setting yourself up for failure because you're not going to be able to sustain it. So it is, and I always say, like, the next doable step, and that could be really, really small, but like I say, it is that those micro actions do compound then. And before you know it, you've achieved that big goal that seemed unrealistic 6 months ago, and you're there. So it's about breaking things down so it is doable, not what you think you should be doing, that you know you can actually do. Because I don't know how many kinds of people I've spoken to, and they've had these big goals, and you're like, right, okay, well, why don't you try this? And you can just see that blank look on their face, and you're like, yeah, that's not gonna work for you then. And then it's breaking it down even further. And that's how things get done, you know, and especially when you've got massive things like, again, like you can relate it to weight loss. You want to lose 3 stone. Okay, fab. 3 stone is a lot. You're not going to do that overnight. So you need to break that down, even so much as you, so you're going day by day. So you've had a great day where you've, I don't know, moved your body, you've had nutritious food. Brilliant. That's one day that you've done it. Now the next day, now the next day, now the next day. You don't have to be looking, what am I going to do in 6 months' time? That doesn't matter. 6 months' time is in now. You need to think about what you're going to do today, now, that can move you forward and towards that goal.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost being present in your life as well. It's almost having that ability to, because it's great to have dreams and future goals and a vision. And I think probably quite a lot of us, right? We're entrepreneurs. We can see the vision at the end of the road. We know what we want, but actually just being able to be present in our day-to-day life is really important for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what you do today will shape your tomorrow. Oh, I'm full of all these like slogans today.
She's
But
bringing it.
it is, you know, what you do. And I think, again, it comes back to like that filling your cup and not putting too much pressure on yourself, because there is just so much out there. And, you know, you sometimes got to switch off to what you see online.
I totally agree. I'd love to know what your experience has been like as a mama. running a business?
I think I'm quite lucky because my two are kind of pre-teens and teens. But one thing that I've really, really noticed is I'm setting an example for them
Mm,
because business isn't easy. It is not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted. And there are days when, I've been in tears where I'm like, I just cannot do this anymore. But it's about picking myself back up, remembering why I'm doing this and keeping going. And I often notice that the kids are watching me.
mm.
So I've got a teenage daughter and my son is like he's preteen. So they watch me all the time and unknowingly watch me as well. And especially kind of with my son, he plays football and he plays football at quite a high level. And he's had quite a few knockbacks and he's had to pick himself up and he's had to keep going. And I hope that because he's seen the way that I bounce back, that has enabled him to bounce back as well as he had, because I don't think I'd be able to if I was his age, because he's had quite a lot of kind of knockbacks. And then with kind of like my daughter as well, she's always watching what I do. And she's just had to do her pick her options for her GCSEs. And, she's got big dreams and big goals. And that's what I want for them. I want them to know and believe that they can do whatever they want to do, because I honestly believe that that is the case for kind of anybody. And I often kind of bring that to work as well, because I work with young people and I'll have conversations with them and they'll say things that they want to do. And I'm like, yeah, but why can't you? And they'll kind of fob it off and they'll be like, oh, yeah, but it's just not going to happen for me. I'm like, no, it absolutely can. And you can do whatever you want to do. So, yeah, I try and kind of um I want to be that role model for them and for other young people as well, because I just think they've got so much pressure themselves that it can be really, really difficult. And I suppose I do say I'm in a very kind of lucky place that I am in that kind of world. I know what's going on for young people. So I like to be like their voice. My kids hate it, but it is tough. I like to think that I think I found that balance as well with being a mum, building a business, who I am still in my day job. I still do work part time, and I'm a busy mum with a very, very busy life. But I think I've got that balance kind of there now. It hasn't always been that way, but we're just about there. So yeah.
I love that. Again, thank you so much for sharing that. I think so many of the women in my audience are mums. And I think, again, it becomes really heavy, this comparison, especially I think to maybe younger business owners or business owners who don't have kids. I was at a retreat last week and one of the women hosting the retreat, Amber, she had put a reel up about how Stephen Bartlett doesn't wipe bottoms, and it got quite a lot of attention. And it was really funny, but it's true, like when you're building a business around other obligations and you're clearly so passionate about what you do with these young people, and that's so gorgeous to see, and you've got your own life and you've got your babies, your business is never going to look the same as someone who does not have all those other elements to their life. And actually then it's, like you say, coming to someone for support and figuring out how you do more in less time, how you habit stack to get stuff done without it consuming your entire life, and how you, like you said, again, over half term, you can be like, yeah, I've actually got this. I can take a few days off and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I absolutely love habit stacking. Like, it's probably the one thing as a mum that just works. And I think, again, it goes back to that. I'm not going to say to somebody, get up at 5 o'clock if that's not realistic for you. It's not realistic for me. I don't get up at 5, but I do get up early, and I do that because it's time for me that I can just have my coffee in peace. But by the time the kids have got up, I've already done like 5 non-negotiables because I've stacked everything. So my vitamins are taken. I've posted on my socials. I've answered DMs. I've answered my emails, all in that time that I keep for me, and to have that quiet, coffee. So that's how I start my day. But that's not going to work for everybody. And it's about, say, trying to find that space, because I do think that everybody does need that space for
Oh,
themselves,
yeah.
even if 10 minutes, like yourself in the toilet, like they'll be fine with 10 minutes.
Listen, we do need it. And I think actually that you mentioned this earlier, but once you start to be able to kind of take care of yourself, actually you can do a better job with everyone else, right? Not that we need to compare or put a, quality on our motherhood journey, but in terms of how
Mm.
you feel and how you are able to connect with the kids and how you're able to have that kind of more relaxed approach, I guess. Because I know that when I'm stressed out and everything's not done, that has an impact on the kids, right? And that's fine. I actually do believe that now and again, it's fine. I don't think we should shame ourselves as mums. We are also human beings and it's not going to look perfect every single minute of every day. But I do know that when I've looked after myself, I'm much calmer, I'm much more centered, and I can handle situations that arise with the kids much better. And it makes us all feel calmer and it makes us all feel a bit more empowered. And like you say, ready for the challenges that crop up, no matter if you're a preteen, a teen, my youngest is only 5, like we all have challenges. And actually, if we can look after ourselves in the process, mums are the ones that are holding the family together. It makes it a lot easier, I think. And you can bring that kind of regulation
Yeah.
into your everyday.
Yeah. And I think by us looking after ourselves, it also shows the kids that you
Yeah.
can look after yourselves as well. So quite often we'll all go on a walk, and like the last weekend actually was really nice. The kids didn't go out with their friends and we spent the whole afternoon just doing things, and they're in their teens now. They don't really want to spend time with them. So that was lovely. But we went for a walk and we
Uh,
did nice things, and yeah, it's just showing them that they can look after themselves as well, because like I said, they've got so much pressure with like social media and stuff on them, school, all of that. So it's just as important for them to look after themselves as well.
yeah, 100%. I agree. Oh, I love that. Okay, let's wrap up with your top 2 habits that you think women in business, that you think women in business could really benefit from. Like, what's those 2 things that you're like, this will really help on a day to day basis in terms of, moving your business forward, but also just a bit of prioritization, feeling like you're kind of moving forward.
Yeah, I think first and foremost is like what we've spoken about, is finding that time for you.
Yeah.
So even if it's a quiet half hour in the morning, if it's on a lunch break, if it's after the kids have gone to bed, even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's just you're going to have a quiet bath to yourself and you're going to lock that door, nobody can access you for those 10 minutes. It's about identifying that time in the day and sticking to it.
Yeah.
Because like we've just discussed, filling your cup is what you need to do first and foremost before you can even think about filling anybody else's. The second, I would say, I think it would be, again, probably habit stacking, and stacking those things that are going to move your business forward. And it's going to look different for everybody in terms of like where their business is, what their goals are, what they want to kind of achieve. But if you can kind of stack things, that is going to make things a lot easier. And stacking similar tasks together. So if you, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example.
I know.
If you are in like a sales period, or you need to do a bit of kind of lead generation, stacking those together. Uh, like putting out an hour where that's when you're going to answer those messages. That's when you're going to send those messages. You're going to answer emails, those kind of things, and stick to that hour, because quite often things can filter in. And before you know it, you're 3 hours deep and you're still messaging people and you haven't got everything else done. So, yeah, I would probably recommend doing something like that. But it is going to look different for everybody's business and where they're at.
Yeah, but I love that. Just almost carving out some really intentional time and then sticking to it, right? Like making that kind of self promise and being like, this is time is for these things that really need to get done, and almost ring fence that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's going to work for different people again. And that's going to fit your life, your business. Because, and I go off on one. Like you'll see people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't work on the weekend. You shouldn't work evenings." Well, no, that works for me, and that's absolutely fine for me to work until 10 o'clock if that's what I choose to do. It's not a set in stone rule, and that's what you can or can't do. So it is. It's about finding what works for you and your business, but making sure you're prioritizing that time for yourself as well.
Yeah, I love that. And also, I also work evenings and weekends sometimes. And I think there are lots of professions that require evening and weekend work. It's not just entrepreneurs. And actually, some people really enjoy that flexibility. I know I enjoy the flexibility through the week of, being able to go and see friends or whatever. I don't know. But having flexibility and actually, again, just a full circle moment coming right back to the start of this conversation, doing what works for you and not letting other people dictate how you run your business or motherhood or life or whatever that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen, sister. I love it. Well, thank you, Lou, so much for joining us today. Um, would you like to share where everyone can come and find you? And of course, we will share that in the show notes as well, so everyone can come and connect with you.
Yeah, you will find me. I tend to hang out on Instagram, so you can find me there. I am at the Lou Collins. So come on over, say hi. My DMs are always open. We don't have no bots over where I hang out. It's just me.
Yay! We love that. We love that. That's amazing. Well, everyone, go connect with Lou. Thank you so much for being here and being part of the Beyond Enough community. We absolutely love when you like, share, review, follow, whatever it is on whichever platform you are. I know there's lots of different buttons, but it really does help us continue to grow the podcast and reach more women. So with that, thank you so much, Lou, and I will see you all in the next one.